Hi, welcome to Fiction Fingers Fairy Channel. Please subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories and don't forget to like and share this video. Thank you. Andy, I'm worried about you, she said softly, perching on the edge of his bed. You seem so lost lately, is everything okay? Andy forced a weak smile, though the pain in his eyes betrayed his facade. I'm fine, Mum, he replied, his voice tinged with sadness. Just thinking. Madame Anita reached out, gently brushing a stray lock of hair from Andy's forehead. Is this about that girl from the event, Sarah has told me? She asked gently, her voice filled with understanding. Andy nodded, his heart heavy with longing. Yeah, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Madame Anita enveloped Andy in a comforting hug, her heart breaking at the pain in his voice. I know it's hard, Andy, she murmured, her voice filled with compassion, but you can't let this consume you. Sometimes love means letting go and trusting that fate will bring you back together when the time is right. As Andy buried his face in his mother's shoulder, tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. He knew she was right, but the thought of letting go of Alice felt like an impossible task. Yet, deep down, Andy clung to the hope that their love was strong enough to withstand any obstacle, that someday, somehow, they would find their way back to each other once more. And until that day came, he vowed to keep their connection alive in his heart, never losing faith in the power of love to conquer all. Observing her cousin's lost demeanor, Sarah devised a plan to host a gathering. She reached out to all the companies that had attended the previous event and requested for the same representatives to attend this gathering. Sarah excitedly informed Andy about the upcoming event she was organizing. Hey Andy, I wanted to tell you about this event I'm planning for next month, she said, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. Andy's eyes lit up with interest as he listened to Sarah's explanation. Wow, Sarah, that sounds amazing! Why have I never thought about doing something like this? He exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. Sarah chuckled at Andy's reaction, pleased to see his excitement matching hers. I know, right? You will get to see her again, she replied, her excitement contagious. As the day of the event approached, Andy's heart raced with anticipation, his mind consumed by thoughts of Alice. The day Andy and Alice wait has finally come. As Alice arrived at the event venue, she couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu wash over her. Surrounded by familiar faces and bustling activity, she scanned the room in search of Andy, her heart fluttering with nervous anticipation. Spotting Alice from across the room, Andy felt a surge of adrenaline course through his veins. With a newfound sense of determination, he made his way towards her, his steps filled with purpose and resolve. As Alice scanned the room, her heart skipped a beat when she caught sight of Andy making his way towards her. A rush of excitement flooded her veins as he drew closer, his eyes locked on hers with a determination that mirrored her own. Andy? She breathed, a smile lighting up her face as he finally reached her side. Andy returned her smile, his own nerves palpable as he took her hand in his. Alice, he replied, his voice filled with emotion. How are you? Alice's heart fluttered, her cheeks flushing with warmth. I'm good, she answered, her gaze never leaving him. Andy's heart swelled with hope as he took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he was about to say. Alice, he began, his voice steady despite the fluttering in his chest. I know this might seem sudden, but would you be willing to give me your phone number? I'd love to take you out for dinner sometime. A surge of anticipation coursed through Alice as she met Andy's gaze, her heart pounding in her chest. Without hesitation she nodded, a smile spreading across her lips. Oh, okay, she said softly, her voice filled with warmth. For a moment, the air between them seemed to crackle with tension as Alice processed Andy's request. Her heart swelled with emotion as she looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and longing reflected in his gaze. With a smile that lit up the room, Andy gave Alice his phone. Alice's fingers danced across the screen as she entered her number. As she handed the phone back to Andy, she felt a sense of hope and excitement wash over her, eager to see where this newfound connection would lead. As Alice handed Andy's phone back to Andy, their fingers brushed against each other, sending a shiver down Andy's spine. Thank you, he said softly, his voice filled with gratitude as he saved her number with trembling hands. Alice smiled, her eyes sparkling with excitement. You're welcome, she replied, her voice tinged with anticipation. Andy's heart soared at her words, his chest swelling with emotion. I'll call you soon, he promised, his voice filled with sincerity. A blush tinged Alice's cheeks as she met Andy's gaze, her heart fluttering with excitement. I'd like that, she said in her heart, but her lips were freezing. With a sense of relief and joy, Andy pocketed Alice's phone number, his heart soaring with gratitude and anticipation. As they shared a lingering glance, A sense of serenity washed over them, enveloping them in a cocoon of warmth and affection. In that moment, Andy and Alice knew that they had found something truly special, a love that would stand the test of time and endure against all odds. Few days have gone by since the memorable gathering. As Andy mustered the courage to text Alice, his heart pounded with anticipation, each moment feeling like an eternity as he waited for her response. When her reply finally came, a wave of relief washed over him, mingled with excitement as they made plans for their first date. On the night of their rendezvous, Andy arrived at Alice's doorstep with a bouquet of flowers in hand, his nerves tingling with anticipation. As Andy handed Alice the bouquet of flowers, his cheeks flushed with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. "These are for you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I hope you like them." Alice's eyes sparkled with delight as she accepted the flowers, a wide smile spreading across her lips. "They're beautiful, Andy," she exclaimed, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you." As she greeted him with a warm smile, his worries melted away, replaced by a sense of exhilaration at the prospect of spending time with her. Their date unfolded like a dream, each moment filled with laughter and conversation as they discovered shared interests and aspirations. Over dinner at a quaint bistro, they exchanged stories and shared anecdotes, their connection growing stronger with each passing moment. After dinner, Andy suggested they take a leisurely stroll through the city, hand in hand, as they savored the magic of the night. As they walked beneath the twinkling lights, Andy felt a sense of serenity wash over him, knowing that he was exactly where he was meant to be. "This is nice," he murmured, his gaze fixed on Alice's face. Alice smiles, her heart fluttered. As they reached Alice's doorstep, Andy felt a pang of sadness at the thought of parting ways. "I had a great time tonight," he said, his voice filled with genuine warmth. "I can't wait to see you again." Alice smiled, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "Me neither," she said. As Andy watched Alice disappear into her home, a sense of elation washed over him, knowing that their date had been a success. Yet, even as he reveled in the joy of their newfound connection, a seed of doubt lingered in the back of his mind, wondering if he was worthy of someone as special as Alice. Meanwhile, as Alice settled into bed that night, her mind buzzed with the memories of their date, her heart overflowing with happiness. Yet beneath the surface, a sense of unease gnawed at her, fueled by the fear that Andy was too good for her, that she would never be able to measure up to his lofty expectations. Despite her doubts, Alice couldn't deny the spark of connection she felt with Andy, nor the warmth of his presence that lingered long after he had gone. Suddenly her phone buzzed with a text from Andy. "Had an amazing time tonight," it read. "Can't wait to see you again." A smile tugged at the corners of Alice's lips as she typed out her reply. "Me too," she wrote, her heart skipping a beat. "Sleep well, Andy. Sweet dreams." With a contented sigh, Alice set her phone aside, her thoughts drifting to the possibilities that lay ahead. Despite her doubts, she couldn't shake the feeling that Andy was the one she had been waiting for, the missing piece she never knew she needed. The next day, the first thing Andy did upon waking up was to text Alice. However, to his surprise, there was no response. Puzzled, Andy tried calling Alice only to be greeted by her voicemail. Concern gnawed at him as he wondered why Alice wasn't responding. "Hey Alice, it's Andy, just checking in to see how you're doing. Give me a call back when you get this, okay?" Andy left a voicemail, his tone tinged with worry. While Andy was consumed by worry about Alice, Alice, on the other hand, was immersed in her own inner turmoil. She paced back and forth in her room, her thoughts spinning with confusion and fear. She couldn't shake off the events of the previous day, replaying each moment in her mind with increasing intensity. As she gazed out of her window, her mind drifted back to her interactions with Andy. She couldn't deny the warmth she felt when she was with him, but at the same time, doubts gnawed at her. Was she truly deserving of his affection? Did she belong in his world? Alice's heart ached with uncertainty as she grappled with these questions. She felt torn between her desire for happiness with Andy and her fear of getting hurt. The weight of her emotions bore down on her, leaving her feeling overwhelmed and powerless. "I can't believe this is happening," Alice whispered to herself, her voice trembling with uncertainty. She couldn't fathom why she was feeling this way, or why she couldn't shake off the fear that seemed to have taken root in her heart. As the morning turned into afternoon, and still no word from Alice, Andy's unease deepened. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. To be continued.